If my driver hadn't taken the wrong turn that night, you wouldn't be hearing my voice right now. Because I would have walked into my house and never walked out again. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 61 years old, and this is my story from Los Angeles. 6 months before everything changed, I stood in a hospital room in Glendale, holding my husband's hand, as the machines that kept him alive slowly fell silent. His name was Michael Carter. We were married for 39 years. 39 years of routines, arguments, laughter, shared silence, and a kind of understanding that doesn't need words. He used to teach history at a public high school. He loved telling stories about the past, about people who made decisions that changed everything. I used to joke that he cared more about dead people than the living ones. He would smile and say, "History is just people making choices, same as us." I didn't realize back then how much one choice could change a life. When he died, nothing dramatic happened. There was no moment where the world stopped spinning. No loud crash. No visible break. Just silence. A kind of silence that creeps into everything. The insurance money came and went. Hospital bills. Funeral costs. Then property taxes. Utilities. Groceries. Life doesn't pause for grief. It keeps sending bills. I moved back into our old bungalow in East Los Angeles. We had bought it decades ago, when the neighborhood still felt like a beginning. Back when we believed things would only get better. Now, it felt like something we had outlived. The paint on the walls was peeling. The porch light flickered at random hours. And at night, the house didn't feel empty. It felt aware. Like it remembered him. The way he used to walk down the hallway. The way he'd clear his throat before speaking. Sometimes, I would pause in the kitchen, convinced I heard his footsteps. But grief does that. It turns memory into sound. Our son, Daniel, lived in Arizona. He called, sometimes. Short conversations. Polite. Careful. Like we were both trying not to touch something fragile. We used to be close. But distance, and time, and unspoken things, they stretch relationships until they don't snap. They just fade. At 61, I couldn't afford to stop working. So I didn't. I found a night job. It was a private legal records archive in downtown Los Angeles. Not a law firm. Not a courtroom. Just a quiet building filled with documents people forgot about. But that still mattered. Civil cases. Sealed depositions. Evidence logs. Files that held pieces of people's lives. Long after those lives had moved on. Or ended. My job was simple. Log incoming files. Verify chain of custody. Flag anything that didn't match. No mistakes. No assumptions. Everything had to be exact. Because in that building, paper mattered. My shift ended at 11:45 p.m. 4 years, I took the bus. Same route. Same stops. Same routine. Until one day, the route changed. The last bus started leaving before my shift ended. At first, I tried walking. Just once. I made it 3 blocks before I realized something had changed. Not the city. Me. My body was slower. My nerves, sharper. Every shadow looked like something. Every sound felt too close. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't unlock my door on the first try. That's when my son insisted I download a rideshare app. I resisted. I didn't like the idea of getting into a stranger's car. But eventually, I ran out of options. That's how I met Marcus Reed. The first time his car pulled up outside the archive, I hesitated. It was late. The street was almost empty. His headlights cut through the dark. But the rest of the world felt distant. He looked to be in his early 50s. Tired eyes. Careful movements. The kind of man who didn't waste energy. But his rating was perfect. 5 stars. Hundreds of rides. I opened the back door and got in. The seat smelled faintly of coffee. Long night, he asked. His voice was quiet, not intrusive, just present. Every night, I replied. He nodded. Like that explained everything. We didn't talk much that first ride. And strangely, that made it easier. No forced conversation. No polite questions. Just silence that didn't feel awkward. But over the next few weeks, something changed. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just slowly. Marcus started showing up every night. Same time. Same spot. Like he had memorized my routine. He didn't ask personal questions. But he noticed things. Small things. You look tired tonight. You're shaking. Are you cold? You stayed late. Audit? I don't know when I started answering him. Maybe because he didn't push. Maybe because silence felt heavier when someone actually saw you. In October, I started bringing tea. Chamomile. From my own kitchen. It helped steady my hands after long shifts. One night, I brought 2 cups. I handed him one as I got in. You don't have to do that, he said. I know, I replied. But nights are long. He took it, nodded once. But something about that moment felt like the beginning of something. Not friendship. Not yet. Just recognition. By November, those 12-minute rides were the only time I spoke to another human being face to face. Marcus remembered everything. My schedule. My habits. The way my porch light flickered. The nights I double-checked my lock. What I didn't know was that someone else was watching too. And the night Marcus missed my exit, everything I thought I understood broke open. By early December, my life had settled into something predictable. Not happy, not full, but stable enough to survive. Work. Silence. 12-minute rides home. Tea in a travel cup. Always warm against my hands. And Marcus. Always there. At first, I thought he simply had a good memory. But then I realized it was more than that. You locked your door twice tonight, he said casually one evening. I paused. I always do. A few nights later, he replied, as we turned onto my street. Only when something feels off. Not abruptly. That stayed with me just longer enough than for me to notice. Because there's a car parked across from your house, he said. I glanced out the window. An older sedan. Dark color. Tinted windows. It's just a car, I said. He didn't respond immediately. I've seen it before. I let out a small laugh. Marcus, this is Los Angeles. Cars don't move for days. He nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't insist. But he didn't forget either. A week later, I noticed something small. So small, I almost ignored it. My front gate. I was sure I had latched it that morning. I always did. It made a distinct metal click when it locked into place. But that night, it was slightly open. Not wide. Not broken. Just not secured. I stood there for a moment, staring at it longer than necessary. Then I told myself the truth I wanted to believe. It's old. The latch slips. Inside the house, everything looked normal. Nothing broken. Nothing moved. Still, I locked my door twice. The next night, I mentioned it to Marcus. It's probably nothing, I said before he could respond. The latch is old. He didn't accept that answer. I could tell. Did you notice anything missing? He asked. I hesitated. Just for a second. Then I shook my head. No. But that wasn't entirely true. A legal pad from my kitchen counter was gone. Nothing important. Just grocery lists. Reminders. Random notes. Except one page. One page had numbers on it. File numbers. Initials. Dates. Things I had scribbled down during work. Just to organize my thoughts. I told myself I had misplaced it. Thrown it away. Left it somewhere. But that explanation didn't sit right. Marcus didn't push. He didn't say I was wrong. He just said something that made my chest tighten. If anything else feels off, you tell me immediately. Not if something happens. Not if something goes wrong. If it feels off. That word stayed with me. A few nights later, I saw him, standing under the streetlight near the corner. Middle-aged. Baseball cap pulled low. Phone in his hand. At first glance, nothing unusual. Just another person killing time. But something about him felt wrong. Not what he was doing, but how he was doing it. He wasn't really using his phone. His head tilted just slightly, like he was watching through the reflection. Marcus, I said quietly. He didn't turn his head. Didn't slow down suddenly. Third time this week, he said. A chill ran through me. You're sure? Yes. That was all he said. No drama. No exaggeration. Just certainty. That night, I didn't just lock my door twice. I checked the windows, the back door, the hallway, and for the first time since my husband died, the house didn't feel empty. It felt exposed. By January, things started connecting. Not clearly, not logically, but enough to make me uneasy. The car across the street. The man under the light. The open gate. The missing legal pad. Individually, nothing. Together, something. One night, as we drove past my block, Marcus spoke again. There's that car. I looked. Same sedan. Same position. Do you see the rear bumper? He asked. I leaned forward slightly. There was a small dent on the left side. You noticed that before? I asked. I notice everything, he replied. There was no pride in his voice. No arrogance. Just fact. Another night, he asked a question that caught me off guard. Do you ever bring work home? No, I said immediately. Never. Good. That was it. But something in the way he said it felt like relief. That same week, I noticed something else. The porch light. It had always flickered. Randomly. Unpredictably. But now, it flickered only at night. And only when I got home. I told myself it was coincidence. Old wiring. Faulty bulb. But deep down, I knew something had changed. What I didn't know at the time was that Marcus had already started connecting pieces. Not just from me, but from others. Passengers. Late-night rides. Conversations people didn't realize they were having. Especially drunk ones. Because drunk people don't hide things. They reveal them. And one man talked too much. Complained about work. About audits. About files being checked. About a woman asking too many questions. A woman in records. Me. He said my street name. More than once. Repeated it. Like he was memorizing it. Marcus had heard it. Logged it. Remembered it. Because years ago, he had ignored something like that. And it had cost him everything. He wasn't going to make that mistake again. By the time January ended, Marcus was certain of one thing. Something wasn't right. He just didn't know how bad it was yet. And he didn't know if I was ready to hear it. But everything changed. On one night. A night that started like any other. Rain falling lightly. Streets reflecting blurred lights. I stepped out of work at 11:45. The guard nodded. Marcus was already there. Engine running. Headlights dim. I got in. Handed him the tea. And waited for the familiar turn toward home. But this time, he didn't turn. The rain had just started. Light, uneven, tapping softly against the windshield. I sat in the back seat like every other night, holding my cup of tea, waiting for the familiar turn just 2 blocks from my street. But this time, he didn't turn. Marcus, you missed Cedar, I said gently. He didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened slightly. Both hands stayed firmly on the wheel. Not aggressive, but controlled. Focused. After a pause, He finally spoke. I need you to stay calm and listen to me very carefully. Something in his voice changed everything. It wasn't fear exactly. It was certainty. And that scared me more. My stomach dropped. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere safe to talk, he replied. Somewhere no one is watching us. The car kept moving straight through the empty streets. My breathing started to feel louder inside my chest. Fear doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives quietly, like this. You're scaring me, I said. I know, he answered softly. I'm sorry, but what I have to tell you cannot be said near your house. He turned into an old, empty office parking lot. The building was shut down. Dark windows, no movement. Only a weak flickering security light above us. Marcus stopped the car, turned off the engine, and for the first time that night, fully looked at me. Chapter. The name. Do you know someone named Victor Hale? He asked. The name hit me instantly. Not because it was unfamiliar, but because I had seen it before. In the archive files. Not often, but enough to remember. I've seen the name, I said slowly. Why? I've seen the name, I said slowly. Why? Marcus exhaled deeply, like he had been holding it in for a long time. I've driven him 8 times in the last 6 weeks. My heartbeat slowed, then suddenly spiked. He continued. Always late at night. Always drunk. Always talking like he doesn't realize who can hear him. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Marcus reached for his phone. His expression didn't change, but his voice dropped lower. Last Friday night, he said. He said your full address out loud in my car. My body went cold. Then he added. And he said, you're the one going through files. Careful, but not invisible. My throat went dry. That doesn't make sense, I whispered. He doesn't even know me. Marcus shook his head slightly. He knows your routine. Your work hours. Your street. He swiped his phone and showed me notes. Times. Dates. Short sentences. Then he said something that made my hands shake. Before I picked you up tonight, I drove past your street. My breath caught. Why? Because Victor mentioned you again yesterday, he said. And he said tonight would be a good time. Silence filled the car. Heavy. Unnatural. Marcus continued, voice steady but firm. His car was parked across your house when I passed by. Engine warm. Lights off. I shook my head immediately. That doesn't prove anything. But even as I said it, my voice weakened. Marcus leaned slightly forward. I watched him get out of his car, he said. I watched him walk to your gate. My stomach dropped completely. I watched him try your front door. The world stopped making sense. He tried your door, I repeated slowly. Yes, Marcus said. But he didn't get in. He just stood there, looking inside. My hands started trembling. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Marcus didn't hesitate. Because I'm not dropping you off tonight. My eyes widened. What? And you are not going home. The words didn't feel real. You are not going home. It sounded impossible. Like something said in a dream you wake up from too late. I don't understand, I finally said. My house. There's nothing there. I don't even know what he wants from me. Marcus stayed quiet for a second. Not because he didn't know what to say, but because he was choosing how to say it. Then he spoke carefully. It's not about what you have at home. It's about what you have access to. My stomach tightened. My work? I asked. He nodded slightly. The archive, he said. And whoever this man is, he knows exactly where you work. I looked down at my hands. They were still shaking. Marcus continued. I didn't want to tell you this like this, but waiting is no longer safe. He unlocked his phone again, turned the screen toward me. Notes. Dozens of them. Times. Locations. Conversations. Then I saw something that made my breath stop. My street name. Written more than once. Followed by timestamps. He talks too much when he's drunk, Marcus said. But he repeats things that matter to him. I whispered. Why would he care about me? Marcus didn't answer immediately. Instead, he leaned back slightly, like he was connecting pieces in his head. Because he doesn't think you're random, he finally said. He thinks you're involved in something. My pulse quickened. Involved in what? He hesitated, then said, missing records, altered files, financial inconsistencies. My mind went straight to work. The archive, the audit, the flagged documents. I only log files, I said quickly. I don't change anything. I just record what's already there. I believe you, Marcus replied. But he doesn't. Silence stretched between us. Only the faint sound of rain outside. Then Marcus added something lower, more serious. There's something else you need to know. My chest tightened again. What? He looked at me directly. I've been recording his rides. I blinked. You what? Audio only, he said calmly. For my own protection. Then he played it. A distorted voice filled the car. Drunk. Slurred. Angry. She's careful, the voice said. But she's not untouchable. My skin went cold. The recording stopped. I couldn't speak for a second. Then I asked quietly. He's talking about me, like I'm a target. Marcus nodded once. Yes. Another silence. He stared ahead through the windshield. Then he said something that changed everything again. He didn't choose you randomly. I turned toward him. What do you mean? Marcus took a slow breath. I asked around. After I heard him mention your street, my heart started beating faster. There's a pattern, he continued. He doesn't just talk. He observes. He plans. He paused. Then added. And he works night security. That sentence hit harder than everything before it. Security. I repeated. Marcus nodded. At multiple buildings, including places connected to legal storage. My throat tightened. The archive came back into my mind instantly. You're saying he has access? Yes, Marcus said. Which means he doesn't need to break in. He can just walk in. The silence after that felt heavier than anything before it. I leaned back slowly, trying to process everything. But nothing made sense anymore. If that's true, I said quietly, then why hasn't anything happened yet? Marcus didn't look at me when he answered. Because he's waiting for the right moment. My hands went cold. And tonight? I asked. Marcus finally turned toward me. His voice was steady. But tonight? I think he was preparing to move. The car felt smaller suddenly. The air heavier. I'm taking you somewhere safe, he said again. And we're calling the police. For the first time since this started, I realized this wasn't confusion anymore. It was real. The silence in the car felt different now. He wasn't just driving anymore. He was deciding. We're not going back to your house, Marcus said firmly. And we're not ignoring this. I looked out the window. The city looked normal. That was the strangest part. Everything looked completely ordinary, while my entire life felt like it was collapsing. I need to go to work tomorrow, I said quietly. Marcus shook his head. No. Not until this is checked properly. I didn't argue, because deep down, I already knew arguing wouldn't change anything. We drove for several minutes without speaking. Then Marcus finally turned into a well-lit parking lot. A closed grocery store. Empty. Still. He parked the car. Turned off the engine. This is where we figure out what's real, he said. I felt my hands tighten. What do you mean? Marcus turned slightly toward me. I want you to tell me everything about your job again. Slowly. From the beginning. So I did. The archive. The files. The audit. The inconsistencies. The missing documents I had flagged weeks ago. The more I spoke, the more I realized something. It didn't sound random anymore. It sounded structured, like someone had been slowly changing things. Without anyone noticing. Marcus listened without interrupting. Not once. When I finished, he nodded slowly. Now it makes sense, he said. My stomach tightened. What makes sense? He leaned forward slightly. The pattern he was talking about. I frowned. What pattern? Marcus unlocked his phone again. Showed me something new. More notes. But this time, different. Names. Dates. Case references. My breath caught. These are archive files, I whispered. He nodded. I checked after he mentioned your street. I wanted to understand why he was so focused. I looked at the screen more closely. My chest tightened. These aren't random, Marcus said. They all connect to civil settlements. Same type of cases you handle. My voice dropped. That's my department. Marcus nodded again. And someone has been altering them. The air felt suddenly colder. I leaned back. No. I would have noticed something like that. You did, Marcus said quietly. You just didn't know what it meant yet. That sentence stayed in my mind. Because it was true. I had seen inconsistencies. Small ones. Too small to act on immediately. But now, they didn't feel small anymore. They felt intentional. Marcus continued. The man you mentioned, Victor, he isn't just talking. My throat tightened. What is he doing? Marcus looked at me directly. He has access to buildings, including archives. My stomach dropped again. Then Marcus said something that changed the direction completely. I think he's been using his access to move things. I looked at him sharply. Move what? Files. Records. Evidence. The word evidence hit differently, because that meant something bigger. Something legal. Something dangerous. I whispered. Why would he care about me specifically? Marcus didn't answer immediately. He stared at the dashboard for a moment. Then said, because you're the only person consistently touching the records he's altering. My heart slowed, then sped up again. You think I'm in the middle of this? I asked. Marcus shook his head immediately. No, you're not involved. Then he added quietly. But you're in the way. Silence filled the car again. I felt something shift inside me. Not fear this time. Something heavier. Understanding. So what happens now? I asked. Marcus exhaled slowly. Now we stop guessing. He reached for the ignition. Started the car again. We go to the police. I didn't respond. I just nodded. Because for the first time, there was no other option left. The police station lights cut through the rain like sharp lines in the dark. For the first time that night, everything felt real. The air inside was cold, sterile, heavy with silence. We sat at a metal table. Marcus on one side, me on the other. And between us, everything we had been running from. An officer arrived first. Then another. Like it was finally becoming real outside my head. Then Marcus spoke. Calm. Controlled. He showed everything. His notes. The timings. The recordings. When Victor's voice played in the room, the detective's expression changed. Not shock. Recognition. He left the room for a moment. When he came back, he wasn't alone. This isn't random, the detective said slowly. Victor Hale works contracted security. My breath caught. Security where? I asked. The detective looked at me directly. Your archive. And 2 other legal storage facilities. The room went silent. He has access. Marcus asked. The detective nodded. Limited. But enough to move unnoticed. My stomach dropped. That meant everything. The files. The inconsistencies. The missing records. It wasn't just mistakes. It was access. The detective placed a folder on the table. Inside was an old photograph. A group of men standing outside a courthouse. My eyes locked onto one face immediately. Michael. My husband. My breath stopped. No, I whispered. The detective spoke quietly. Years ago, your husband testified in a fraud case. He pointed at another man in the photo. Victor Hale. This wasn't random, Marcus said quietly beside me. The detective nodded. He didn't choose you by chance. He paused. Then added. He followed you because of your husband. Everything went quiet. The pieces finally connected. The files. The audit. The missing records. The access. The surveillance. The street outside my house. It wasn't just work. It was revenge. Years in the making. The detective stood up. We're getting a warrant. Everything after that moved fast. Too fast. He was coming for you, the detective said. My body went cold. We intercepted him on the way, he added. He's in custody. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I would have walked straight into him. And no one would have ever known why. But life didn't go back. It adjusted. The archive reopened under investigation. New safeguards. New systems. The case expanded far beyond anything I was part of. And cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just, finally. I didn't say anything. I just stayed. Because sometimes, that's enough. I am 62 now. I still live in my small house in East Los Angeles. I still work nights. I still drink tea when my hands shake. But I no longer believe silence means safety. I understand something now. Danger doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes, it lives inside routine, inside repetition, inside ignored details. And kindness isn't weakness. And the end of their story. And me. I'm still here. Because one driver chose to notice.